Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome into Guest Blade episode number 37. Today we're going to be focusing on Combative Edge, in particular the brand new, or I should say upcoming, it has not been released yet, the upcoming M1 automatic. And you guys know, and obviously you can see here if you didn't already know, I am a huge Combative Edge fan, and that goes back to their very first knife, which was, and actually I have mine right here, the original M1 titanium frame lock. This has seen a hell of a lot of pocket time. This has had a lot of use, and it's really been a great constant companion. And while these days I tend to carry more exotic, more expensive, high-end custom knives, I still go back to my Combative Edge knives, and I'm never disappointed. I feel that they still hold some of the best value out there in that true tactical carry style of knife. Whether it's the M1 or it's the SR11, I still got a couple of these that I truly love. It's a great ergonomic dream. And one of the very few fixed blades that I own, and I do love, which is my Salus. Yeah, it's big, it's beefy, it's heavy, it's insane, and it's got a great carry rig. So when you look at what Combative Edge does, they try to design stuff that's going to be practical for everyday use. And you really have to go back into the philosophies of Rob Walker, who owns Combative Edge, and what he does, he has a whole training school dedicated to tactical training, self-defense, hand-to-hand combat, disarming, things like that. So when he decided to design his first knife, which was the original M1, he had that in mind. It had to be something that was going to be a good fighting style of knife. And that's exactly what he brought out. He brought out something that was easy to EDC, it was slim, it was lightweight, great belly in that recurve blade. It's going to do a lot of damage. And still be something that's practical enough to carry every single day, even though it's a bigger size knife. And what he's wanted to do, he's wanted to translate that into a daily carry EDC style of automatic. Now we're going to take a look and see if he has succeeded. Now, before we get into the main parts of the knife, I do want to talk about some of the differences because as you see noted right here, this is his prototype. This is his personal prototype. I'll be sending this back to him in a day or two. Couple of very big changes. Number one, let's see, the blade. What they did just for the mock-up on the prototype was use a very inexpensive Cerakote, and that can give you bubbles and imperfections, which I'm not sure if my camera will pick up, but they are certainly there. So he is not going to be doing a Cerakote. Instead, you're going to be getting a nice, clean, and smooth black DLC coating, much higher end, and it will cost more than doing the Cerakote, but it's going to give a better overall product in the end. Another change is going to be that the blade itself is going to be a little bit thicker than what you're seeing here. He's looking at changing the clip design. It is still going to be tip down or tip up carry. I like the fact that it is reversible. There are not a lot of automatics out there, by the way, that give you that option. So it's really nice to see that he did that. He also added the lanyard option, which for me is a huge deal. I like to know that I have the choice in being able to do that, and I'm not stuck not being able to if I want to. There's going to be some slight changes to the back spacer. It is a really cool back spacer design, but it's not as perfect as he wanted it to be, so he's going to be changing that up a little bit. That's pretty much it. So it's not major changes. It's mostly aesthetic changes, but it is going to be a little bit different than the one that you're seeing here, so please do keep that in mind. You're going to be able to get 3 different choices. First choice is going to be an all blacked out version, so you get a black DLC blade, and the 6AL4V titanium frame is also going to be done black. I'm kind of thinking that might end up being the most popular color choice. The other will be this, the black blade with the blasted titanium in the natural finish, that natural gray. And the third is going to be a stonewash blade with the blasted titanium. Now the stonewash blade is the one I'm most interested in because it's really the first time that Rob has done that. Everything has been about being tactical. So all of his blades have always been black. And while I think it's a cool look, obviously the original M1 looks great all black. This I think is going to look really nice in that all kind of gray look. If you want that more tactical feel, you're probably going to go for the black on black. Now, when we do these side by side, and that's actually not a bad idea while I have this out here, you see there are some differences. The overall shape of the frame is the same. You still got the same signature skull cracker on the very end of the butt right there. Same basic shape and ergonomics to the handles, although they will be thicker. And the blade is mostly the same. The profile is not as tall. You have a longer swedge going across the top of the blade than you do here. This is a much shorter, less pronounced swedge. And the primary bevel does go up higher, up into the flats. Here you have a much more prominent flat, and your lead-in on the grind is very, very straight, while this one has a nice curvature to it. So I'm not sure if they're ground differently. It still feels like a flat grind. It's a little bit hard to tell, a little bit hard to see, but I think these are going to be flat ground blades. Now, another big difference is, up until this point, typically combative edge knives have been Italian made. And as you will see right here, these will be 100% made in the USA. And that was very important for Rob, and I think it's a really nice jump. Yes, it's probably going to cost him more to manufacture that way, but you know, a lot of people really do prefer to have an American-made product. So let's take a look at this overall and see what our thoughts are. Now, it is very heavy because you've got full titanium this time. On the original M1s, you had a very thin titanium lock side with a black or coyote tan G10 on the other side. The blade here is going to be a little bit more like the original M1, so it will be thicker. So it is going to add a little bit more weight. But those of us that have carried automatics before, we're kind of used to having a heavier knife to begin with. So I don't think it's going to discourage very many people from it. The only discouraging thing about this is going to be the availability. Unlike all previous runs of Combative Edge knives, you will not be able to order these directly from Combative Edge because Rob took his prototypes to the SHOT Show, and the Motang Group, which is a huge distributor, bought every single piece from the production run. So that means they're actually going to be out at retailers instead of being able to buy direct. So I do know for a fact that Blade HQ is going to be getting some, but beyond that, you're going to have to check with Rob, shoot him an email, and see where else these may land. Some of the features on this that I really like, and there's not really a lot going on here. It's actually a very simple, clean knife. There are not a lot of extraneous things on this knife. All you're going to see, the most hardware that you're going to see, is going to be from this side. You'll see your rear screw for the spacer, another screw for the spacer, and then your hardware for your clip. But on this side, really all you see is the pivot, the firing button, the safety, and the lanyard hole. So it's a very clean look on this side. This is actually a knife, and I don't typically think about this in automatics very often, but this would be a nice knife to send out to have pimped and have maybe some carving done and anodization done. This is going to be a nice, clean kind of platform to do that kind of art on. Now, what I love about this is that it does have a safety. While the plunger release is nicely recessed, I don't really think you're going to have any issues with any accidental firing of it. A lot of people prefer not carrying automatics because they feel they're a little bit more dangerous, and there's something to be said for that, I'm sure. Having the safety switch on there does provide a great sense of security. You're not going to release that plunger at all. When you unlock it, it's your choice if you want to carry it with the safety on or off. Personally, myself, I'd probably carry its safety off because I'm not going to be the kind that typically is going to reach and put my thumb there before I'm ready to fire it. Now, for those of you that carry tip down, let me lock that back up. When you're grabbing this, you might want to have your safety on because your thumb may drop right where that plunger is. For those of us that carry tip up, because that's my preference, I don't have that concern. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab it like this, and I'm probably not going to have my thumb all the way that far down. Now, the greatest thing about this is the feel when it fires. Let me give you a quick side-by-side here. Some of you have seen the video I've done on this. This was a hand-built custom prototype that Daryl Ralph made, and he obviously made this for his mid-tech line for his production series, but this was one of his customs, so he's put a lot of work into this, and this is not an inexpensive knife. And get a good look at and maybe listen for how this fires. Pretty snappy. And it's got a really strong spring, so you really feel like you have to work it to get it closed. Definitely a respectable automatic. Now we get to this. It nearly wants to jump out of my hand, yet when I go to close it, I don't feel as much tension on that spring. I'm just going to kind of loosely hold it here. I don't want to do it too loosely because I don't want to let the thing fly out of my hand. But I'm just going to loosely hold it and see what the knife does. I mean, it's got a lot of recoil. This thing just flies open. And when we're looking at something like this is obviously going to be lighter weight because it's aluminum versus titanium. And you definitely feel that you've got a little more going on there. It kind of feels wimpy after holding onto a knife like this. That is awesome. Now, of the automatics I've owned, my hardest firing side openers have always been ProTech. Now, I've had some Microtechs and I've had some other stuff. And out the front is so much different than side opening. But as far as my side openers go, the ProTechs that I've owned, the Godfather, the Godson, and I think I've had another one that I can't remember, they seem to have fired the hardest. This is the hardest firing automatic that I've felt so far. The deployment, the pusher here, the plunger, has a very solid feel to it. You can feel it disengaging. And it's got a nice, clean, crisp release to it. As far as blade play goes, it's going to be hard to say because this is the prototype. These were, put together by hand, not made for public consumption. There is a little bit of side-to-side and up and down play, but that's not something that I would expect in the production piece. Now, you're never going to get a fully rock-solid automatic until you start getting into, like, Jeff Harkins, where you're spending $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 on an automatic. Generally, you're going to have a little bit of play in any kind of automatic. But this is certainly respectable. It's got similar ergos to the original M1, but it is thicker. And to be honest, I like having a thicker feel in the hand. The jimping is fantastic. It's not overly done where it feels sharp, where it's abrasive, but when you drop your thumb on there, and you can see the skin pulling away from my fingernail, it is locking you in nicely. The forward choil on the handle feels great. No real hot spots that I can detect. I do feel the jimping back here on my pinky when I really, really bear down on it. But it's going to be fantastic for when you've got that reverse hold. You've got a nice spot for your thumb to drop onto. And then you've got the jimping here for your finger. Your pinky will, of course, drop right into that choil. So it's going to have a really nice feel to it all the way around. It's a very fast deployment, very quick into action, which is going to be a huge deal for anybody that's actually looking to use this as a self-defense weapon. Great blade shape on this, as I mentioned before, just like the original M1. It's got a huge belly right here and a wonderful recurve. It's got what I think is a really nice profile with that new elongated swedge to it. It's a sexy looking knife. It's a sexy looking knife that really was built to perform. Now, I'm not entirely certain which blade steel Rob has chosen to use for the production pieces, so I can't speak to that yet. I will find out from him at some point when I can. And when I do that, I'll be happy to put that into the notes down below so that you get a chance to get that more rounded experience and get all the information you need to know. As far as the way it feels, safety-wise, I like having the safety on there. I feel that this is going to be a nice, secure, easy EDC for you, as long as you appreciate a slightly heavier knife. It is certainly going to be heavier than the original M1, and probably heavier than a lot of modern-day side-opening automatics, because so many have gone to that aluminum body, and I think it was a really good choice that Rob made to go into titanium. It's a more flexible material as far as what you can do with it. If you really want to modify this and make it yours, make it a one-off for yourself, you're going to have that availability. Now, I don't know how many modifiers out there like working with automatics, because let's face it, automatics are not fun to put back together. So, you might want to do a little bit of checking around before you get your hopes up on that. So basically, you're going to be getting 100% American made. You're getting a super hard firing automatic. You're going to get what I think is going to end up being every bit as good of an EDC as their standard frame lock. It just depends on what your style is. You know, if you live in a state that doesn't allow you to own and or carry an automatic, you know, you're going to stick with the standard M1 for sure. But if you can get the automatic, I mean, it's beyond anything else, there's a certain cool factor to having an automatic. It's a guy thing. We like shit that does stuff like that. And when you feel that fire in your hand, it's amazing. You know, the one downfall that I think that the M1 always had was, you know, it has a flipper tab on it, so, you know, you expect it to be a flipper, but it really doesn't flip. It's more of an assist to get it open, and that's fine. And I think it was more designed to be a finger guard because of Rob's, you know, his self-defense training. It's probably something that he wanted to do for that. So it really is going to be a thumb stud deploy, which is fine, and it certainly is fast into action. But when you can just rip this thing out and it slams open with authority and you hear it engage that blade stop, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. There's something intangible, something, you can't explain about firing a good automatic. It just feels good. It's fun, and it gets your blood pumped up just a little bit. So there it is, guys. This is kind of your preview look at the M1 automatic. Again, they have not been released to the public yet. Please do check with Rob to see where they're going to be distributed by Motang. All I know for sure is Blade HQ is going to get them. Send Jake an email and say, hey, listen, I just saw a video on that M1 automatic. You know, can you put me on a reserve list? Jake is really good about that if he's able to. You know, if it's something that's going to be 6 months out, no, he's probably not going to be able to do it. But if they're coming in the next few weeks, you know, more than likely, Jake would be happy to put you on a little email notification list, put a little post-it on his computer there and let you know when it comes in. And again, you do have those 3 choices that'll be available that I listed at the beginning of the video. So a little bit more flavor and a little bit more selection than we're used to seeing from Combative Edge. And also keep in mind, there is a new model coming up very soon, something that is really exciting for me. I'm a big fan, as you guys know, of flippers. And yeah, they're going to be coming out. Rob is coming out with a true, real serious flipper. It's called the X9. And it's not going to be, you know, like this, where you've just got a flipper tab on the knife and you still have to use wrist action. It is going to be a serious, bam, hit it, and it's going to flip open. It's going to be a full Ti frame lock. Looks pretty badass. He sent me a couple of pictures. I don't know if he's released them to the public, so I don't want to bring my phone here and show them to you, but it's going to be pretty badass. So anyway, that's going to do me for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I do have more videos coming very, very shortly. And I'm excited to get to them, and I'm excited to follow up with you on the big announcement that I have. It's not that I want to leave you guys hanging. It's that I cannot put all the information out there just yet until we get a little bit closer. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next video.